Walking around on the first snow of the winter of 2022 here in New York. Hey, I'm Jim Goodin, and with Analog Photography again. I am looking for a picture here at Pinhole today using the recent 50 millimeter that I built on 4x5, and I'm looking for a moment. I've photographed these trees before, actually had some interesting stuff work. Sort of thinking about here. So we'll see. We'll check it out next. You know, in this adventure of pinhole work, it seems like I've shot a lot of trees. The trees are interesting, not quite as interesting as people, but I've yet to really get into portraits with the pinhole stuff, which is kind of appealing in a way, but I'm wondering if it's it's going to work a patience factor with the subjects. Well, we'll see here. I'm trying to decide if this is going to work or not for what I'm thinking, or if I want to walk around for another moment. It is an interesting little meadow, this area of the park. This is all in Prospect Park here in Brooklyn. This is kind of like, I don't know if I'd call it the middle, but it's close. But it's a miniature version of Central Park in a way. It was created by the same person, to my knowledge, and kind of laid out maybe similar. I don't spend a lot of time in Manhattan anymore, and it's odd. We used to live very near Central Park, and I didn't venture into it that much. It was when I first moved here, and I hadn't quite gotten into it. It kind of came in recent years after we moved to Brooklyn, and somewhat with running and bicycling and stuff, but more so with the photography. I've sort of developed a renewed interest and appreciation in this park. Man, the trees up there are really cool. Let me show you what that's like. Up there, man, the light is friggin' gorgeous. I will say that's the one thing that really continues to keep me excited and making pictures, whether it was back in the 80s when I was doing this the first time, or this return. It's just the light. It's all about the light and the things that happen. And you know that if you do film, if you do photography, you know it's all about that. Well, I still think I'll walk around a little bit more and look, sort of trying to avoid repeating places I've gone yet. As I said, when the light is right, it's right. I may come back to that, but I'm going to walk over to a point where I made a picture last weekend in the previous video. It was something really satisfying about that area. So we're going to go over there and check that out. It's on kind of a far point on this area that's called the Audubon Center. This is an area I've taken a lot of pictures in. This is the lake here at the Audubon Center. What I've come to know is what's been called is the boathouse structure over here, which is very pretty. It's not really this angle, getting beyond the trees here, but it's a lot of events are held there, a lot of weddings and stuff. But it's been a kind of a neat place to come and make some large format images. Both when I was using my calumet that started this adventure. I did start with large format when I decided to start working with film again last December, and then one thing I always wanted to do was move to the larger format, and I never did in the previous chapter, so I thought I would this time. So I got one of the many used large formats you can get these days for not a whole lot of money, and I got a calumet and worked with that for the winter and gained a lot of technique, and I only had one lens, and that desire for a wider angle lens at the time and not wanting to invest any more money at the time led me to think about Pinhole, which started this adventure. Anyhow, I might do something with this today. I'm undecided. This is kind of a thinking video, looking for a picture. And so I'm showing you some of my thought process here in how I'm doing this. So, this lake is frozen over today, and there's something about the snow sitting on top of it there, the little balls of it. And I'm walking out to that point because I kind of want to see what that looks like under today's little bit of snow. Wasn't a whole lot we got. I don't know. I think about 6 inches probably, but not on the roads or anything. And it's a chill. My fingers are starting to get numb, so I need the gloves. It's my weak link in the winter is my fingers. They're the first to feel it. But the light's really pretty right now. It's about 1 o'clock, I guess, in the afternoon. This is a little neat, undiscovered area. As I said, this is where I came last weekend when I did the previous video on the first picture of my Pinhole camera number 2. But there was this little point and region of trees across the way, and really some slick spots today. As you can see, a little bit of the black ice almost, which can take you down the heartbeat. I'm kind of delicate on this stuff. I kind of walk gingerly, but anyhow, it's contrasting right now, but it's really pretty. This is an overpass. I think the Inner Park Road goes over this. And I really enjoyed making a picture out here last weekend. Right through here. And just right off here. So let's see how it looks today. Again, I'm not sure I want to repeat it. I'm still kind of thinking about what I want to make this a subject of this video. But anyhow, last weekend this looked really cool through here. It was overcast, so I'm getting the early afternoon sun coming right into me. So I don't know if I'll do this or go back to the trees, but it's a different area of the park to me. I will say the pinhole technique is really staying after me. It's intimidating at first because when you think about it, it's a fixed aperture. Exposure is going to be probably slow and take some time, and it's unpredictable, and you're also just kind of aiming the box where you think the framing is going to be right. So, but I'm kind of into the experimental factor, whether it's photography or I did music, and I still do music to a degree. It's always been an experimental factor with me on all this stuff, on anything I'm creating, which I don't find terrible in contrast. So I don't know, it's all in kind of what you want to do, and I guess what you value each. There was something really cool about working with a larger format, I will say. It really I personally enjoy the limitation of having to really think about it and look around and look for the picture. And with the regular 4x5 setup, generally I'm taking 2 film holders, and that's 4 sheets of film, So, even then, it's still thinking about, the limitation. But I think using the pinhole and, doing, and you got one sheet in the camera really does make you think and look at stuff. This may be what I'm going to do. This may win out here. It's kind of neat looking back through there. I was debating about doing something more detailed. And I've thought of that lately. I feel like a lot of things I'm doing are wide and open, and I'm not concentrating on details as much. It's really frozen over. It's interesting. The spotting's interesting in there. A bird walking on the water, although it's a cardinal, I think, isn't it? Can't quite tell, but it looks like it in the light. Never reached him with the width, the focal length of the pinhole I got today. But I'm thinking of looking back that way towards the little bridge and the boathouse in the background. I'll say it's a lovely day. It's cold. I'm feeling it in my fingers. This again is in Prospect Park here in Brooklyn, New York, and this whole area I think is called the Audubon. Well, it's called the Audubon Center, so I don't know if I can say the whole area is that, but anyhow, I think of it as the Audubon region. Maybe I'll say that of the park. My reading right now, it's running around. My f-stop on this camera is I'm calling 201. It kind of averages depending on where you measure the diameter of the pinhole, because my pinhole is not perfectly round. So at one point it's a 0.272 millimeter, and then at the other point it's about a 2.49 millimeter. And with the formula, which you divide that number by the focal length, which is 50 millimeter in my case, and you get anywhere from an F184 to an F201, and I'm calling it a 201. That seemed to work out well last weekend. So anyhow, this is kind of interesting to me, except for there's clutter there on the left and right that I don't know, the trees the way they are, it's bothering me that they're in the view. It might be interesting wide angle, but I am entertaining still walking around a bit. Well, in the end, this angle is going to work out. I've shot this before, or made a picture. I don't like to say shot. I'm going to do a whole video on that later, but I'm making a picture. And I've made a picture here before. It was one of my first pinholes. It was way underexposed and it was a different angle, but this is calling me at the moment. So I've set up the box camera here. This is the new one. It's a 50 millimeter, like I mentioned in the others. That is my makeshift shutter in the front. It's got the little handle on top to raise it, and it's covering up the pinhole. So at the moment of exposure, up it goes. But I'm really liking this one a lot. I like my other one too, and I'll still use it, but I like this perspective. I like this, the design of this particular box and focal length. So again, this is what I'm doing. Man, it's really chilly on the hand, so I'm not going to ramble too long. Lucky for my audience. But we're set up to do it here. So the picture's going to be through there. Lightmatic says about it ranges, from, because you got some of the trees lower in the light, and you got the scene on the bridge. It's all hovering around a second, anywhere from a half second up to about 2 seconds, depending on what you measure. So I'm using the Lightmatic app, which has got a pinhole mode. I'm also comparing with Lux, with taking a reading at f128 and doing my calculation change. It says a half second at f128 for, this is 400 ISO Arista. The exposure seems to be anywhere from a half second up to about a second and a half between the two. I was going to talk about the differential. If I use a standard meter, such as, when I say standard meter, I'm using a metering app. I have found it pretty good, all things considered. I've used the Selects app, which is not necessarily, it's more like a standard meter. It's LUX in the App Store. And I've been using Lightmatic, which is another one in the App Store, which has a pinhole mode. And so I've been comparing between the two. If I use Lux, I've got an exposure differential that's a little detailed, but I take that to get the calculation difference between my f-stop, which is a 201, and what Lux is giving me at 128. So if I'm doing the exposure differential, which is about a 2.4 for me, and you're taking the difference between the f-stop of the pinhole, which is a 201 for me, and dividing that by 128, which is the highest f-stop number you have on the meter that I've got, and then you square it. So that gives you this difference factor, which is a 2.4, and then you multiply that 2.4 by the time that your meter gives you at 128, and you get roughly what you should give it for your 201 in my case. All right, so I'm going to give this a second or 1.3 seconds exposure based on my Lightmatic app. Here's again my 4x5 50 millimeter DIY box camera I recently built, and I'm going to use it today capturing this scene through here looking towards the bridge. It's going to be a wide angle, so I'm hoping to get some of that cool tree on the right over there and this perspective through here. So I'm going to pause while I expose. All right, I did the exposure, did about 1.3 seconds. It's going to follow my tag here at the end of the video. And again, thanks for watching. I'm Jim Goodin with Analog Photography again. And you all be well, shoot film, and all good things.